Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Unapologetically Confused. Today was not supposed to be a streaming day when it comes to news, but a blockbuster trade happened, and so I have to get on here and speak about it. So, those of you who are wondering what happened today, James Harden got traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Yes, James Harden finally got his wish. And here we are. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about this trade. See how it affects each team. So it was a 4-team deal between the Houston Rockets, the Brooklyn Nets, the Indiana Pacers, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I'm not going to say, the most important part, of course, is James Harden being traded. But I'm not going to say it's a bad trade for the Brooklyn Nets. And I'll get to that in a minute. But just to let you know what happened was the Houston Rockets received Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, and some guy I ain't never heard of before. I ain't even gonna try to pronounce his name. And they got 3 of Brooklyn's first round picks for 2022, 2024, 2026. 1 of Milwaukee's first round picks, 2022, and it's unprotected. And then they get the swap for Brooklyn's first rounds, the 2021, 2023, 2025, and 2027. The Brooklyn Nets get James Harden. The Indiana Pacers get Karis LeVert and a second rounder. And the Cleveland Cavaliers get Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. So, let's start off with the Houston Rockets. James Harden wanted out. It was obvious. There was no way of getting around it. He wanted out. He made it known preseason, before the season started, preseason, the little bit of preseason NBA had, and he's been making it well known. And of course, y'all seen, those of you who follow sports, what he said last night about his team. He said he loved this city. He's literally have done everything that he can. The situation is crazy, and it's something that he doesn't think can be fixed. So, Houston got what they wanted. Well, what James wanted, for him to leave. I think Houston came out pretty good on this trade. You got to think they got Victor Oladipo. So it was reported that Victor Oladipo during the bubble playoffs, that he was talking to every team he played against in the bubble. He was telling them to trade for him. Now, there's a lot of people that said this isn't true, but it was reported on that's what was going on. So Victor Oladipo, of course, was happy when he got traded from Oklahoma City. He was able to become a star again in Indiana as he was in Orlando. But injuries kind of derailed him. And then afterwards, of course, the team started getting better. They added some pieces. So with Victor trying to come back, he wasn't featured as much as before. So you can kind of see why he was kind of unhappy. You have a team that had T.J. Warren, who was one of the bubble's MVPs, of course. Miles Turner, who still is an emerging star. But Sabonis has become their all-star and their main man. I think what really hurt Victor Oladipo in the long run was when they brought over Malcolm Brogdon from Milwaukee. He's starting to emerge. Last year was a little shaky year, but this year he's starting to show out. And so the real need for Victor wasn't what it used to be. So he gets to get a fresh start in Houston. He gets to help that backcourt out with John Wall, who has been playing tremendously ever since coming back from injury and since that trade from Washington. You got Boogie Cousins there. Man, I know y'all seen him the other day when he pushed Morris. He's back to the old Boogie, getting texts all the time. And even though he's a lot lighter, he still can't be moved. That mug got some lower body strength to him. But yeah, so you have Houston, who of course gets that. Dante Exum's a backup. I wouldn't be surprised if they waive him, honestly. And they might keep him for the rest of the season. But look at all those first round picks they got. That was the main concern because you got to think. Houston got rid of a lot getting Chris Paul. And then getting rid of him and then getting Russ Westbrook. So this secures Houston's future, which was a big concern. If they got rid of James Harden, will they still have a future? So I think this does a good job of securing that. Now, as for the Brooklyn Nets, I don't know what to tell you. I want to say this is good for them only because Kyrie has been acting like a pain in the butt lately. And I almost want to speculate that Kyrie was doing this on purpose. He knew something was in the works with Brooklyn. And he didn't want his name to come up in trade rumors. I think his actions lately have quelled any thoughts of any team trying to trade for him. They were like, nah, we're not dealing with that. We don't need that headache. So, I honestly want to thank Kyrie, because Kyrie, he could be a deep thinker sometimes. And so I think maybe this was him being a deep thinker and him going through with this just to make sure he wasn't involved in this trade at all, or at least talked about being involved in this trade. So now you have Kevin Durant, James Harden, Kyrie Irving on the same court together. This is literally crazy to have a team like that. Like, I will say this though. I give credit to Brooklyn. They didn't have to get rid of Joe Harris in this deal. And a lot of people was thinking that was going to happen. And Joe Harris is a tremendous shooter. Right now this season, he's shooting 52% from the field, 51% from three. He's averaging 14.4 points a game. He is playing well. And so for him to be able to stay on the team helps. I think the injury to Spencer Dinwiddie did a good thing for Brooklyn's future because they didn't have to get rid of him as well. If he was healthy, he probably would have been included in the trade. I will say losing Karis LeVert had to be tough. You see he's been balling out of control, especially when Kyrie and Kevin aren't in the lineup. He goes nuts. So, and the other piece that kind of, I know they had to do it, but it's frustrating to see them do it, is getting rid of Jared Allen. Jared Allen was a staple of their defense. He was their low block defender. He can actually move pretty well on the pick and roll. A lot better than other big men that I've seen. Rudy Gobert. That's not white size. But, yeah, Jared Allen, man, he was averaging 11 points a game and 10 rebounds a game. And they had to let him go in this trade. Meaning they kept DeAndre Jordan, who has been trash this year. And I don't know it's because he's dealing with an injury or the fact that he's just getting older. But DeAndre Jordan isn't the same DeAndre Jordan from his Clippers days. And we kind of knew that when he went to Dallas. And we kind of knew that when he went to the Knicks. But he has really fallen off. And I don't know if his confidence is down because Jared Allen was beating him out in practice every day or what it was. But DeAndre Jordan, now is your chance to show that you're a dominant low block center again when it comes on the defensive end, because we know you don't have any offensive skills. But for Brooklyn, it's going to be interesting to see James Harden, former MVP, with Kevin Durant, former MVP, and Irving, former NBA champion, and see what happens, because that ball, there's already memes and stuff out there showing how the Brooklyn Nets offense is about to look. And Kevin Durant's going to dribble. And he's going to pass it to James Harden. He's going to dribble. And he's going to pass it to Kyrie. He's going to dribble. And then somebody's just going to throw up a shot. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But, man. So, I think this might make them the favorites in the East, if they weren't already the favorites in the East. Well, I think they were until Kyrie started pulling this mess. But now if you think about the team in itself with just James Harden and Kevin Durant, even if Kyrie isn't there mentally, they are the team to beat in the East. So moving on to the next team, the Indiana Pacers. We talked before, Oladipo didn't seem like he was happy. So for them to be able to move on him, and just not even just because him not being happy, but just him being injury prone. Being able to pair Karis LeVert with Brogdon and Sabonis will be a good thing. I think they came out really well with this trade. It's going to be interesting to see LeVert. Before his injury, he was balling out of control. He has been since then, but he hasn't got the shot. He's been coming off the bench too much. And you've seen how he played in the bubble, in the playoffs. So you know he can hoop. So to see him, it'll be interesting to see how he plays in the Indiana offense. But I think Indiana came out good with this. And then the Cavs. What the hell are y'all doing? I don't know what Cleveland is doing anymore. Like, I don't think anybody, like, since LeBron James left, I can't even speak on it. Like, Cleveland, what are you doing? Like, literally, your team is either you're about to get rid of you're about to let somebody go. Because I'm looking at your roster, and what? You got Andre Drummond, JaVale McGee, and now you have Jared Allen. I honestly think you're planning on moving on Andre Drummond. I think you're going to field some trade prospects for him. Because coming from Detroit, I mean, Andre Drummond has been, I had to give him credit. For him to be a big man and to be a top 10 center in the NBA for years, for him to be content in Detroit like he was, and then to seem like he's happy in Cleveland, is, I guess he just doesn't care about being in a big market. He's fine with being in a small market. But I think, honestly, they're going to move on from him. They're going to let him go. Or it's going to be a piece with him and Kevin Love. They got a lot of young players now, with Sexton and Garland. You add Jared Allen in the mix with them. You know, you still have Larry Nance Jr. It'll be interesting to see what y'all are doing. I mean, y'all did get y'all came out of this great, honestly. If you look at it, I think Cleveland came out of here. It's crazy, but they gave up Exum, really, and got Jared Allen and Taurean Prince. I mean, where do they do that at? Apparently they do that in Cleveland. But for you Cleveland fans, you're still going to suck. You're still not making the playoffs. I know you're 5-6 right now, but I'm sorry. It's not happening. Y'all are not that good. But it'll be interesting to see how y'all perform with some more hungry players. I'll say that. Because I don't think Kevin Love is hungry like he used to be. I think he's just out there to be out there now. I think he's waiting for some team to really put in the effort to come get him. But again, I mean, Drummond is an 18-10 player, almost an 18-11 player. Garland is averaging 17 and 6. Sexton's averaging 25, and 3.5 assists a game. So, I mean, you have some potential. I mean, JaVale McGee has been playing some minutes for you guys. He's been averaging 8.5 with 6.7 rebounds. So, but Kevin Love hasn't been doing anything, but he's only played 2 games, averaging almost 10 points a game. Larry Nance Jr. has been balling. So, I mean, y'all might have an interesting team. Y'all might become the Sacramento Kings of the Eastern Conference. Good, won't make the playoffs, but play hard every night and give a team a run for their money. I think that's what y'all will be. Y'all will be the Sacramento Kings of the Eastern Conference. But I think I think Cleveland's going to make a couple moves before the trade deadline. So that's my report on this James Harden trade. Again, James Harden wanted out of Houston. He got what he wanted. And the team that they speculate he was going to at first was Brooklyn. And this is where he went to, Brooklyn. So I look forward to seeing NBA games with James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant on the floor at the same time. Depending on what's going on with this Kyrie Irving investigation and with him not missing games and going to parties and doing all types of craziness. No telling when he gets back on the court. But it will be nice to see Kevin Durant and James Harden back on the floor again, since they haven't been on the floor since, I guess, an All-Star game, and before that would be them in OKC together for a season. I know KD's happy, even though he tried to play like he wasn't too concerned about the trade and everything like that. I know he's seeing how things are going in Brooklyn, and he's missing them Golden State days. So if he can have a big 3 again, he'll be fine with having a big 3 again. And especially to challenge LeBron's legacy, I think he's willing to do anything he can to get those championships up so he can be mentioned in the conversation. But that is my take on today's Blockbuster trade. I will be on later on streaming. I haven't decided what game I'm going to be streaming later on. And tomorrow, tune in. I will be going over some politics. We're going to talk some politics. I want to talk about tribalism in America. So, again, I appreciate y'all joining in. We'll see what happens. Talk to y'all later. Peace.